money and how we're allocating this. And it's wonderful, and I know we're getting the ARPA fund and all of this, and you were talking about the seniors and the senior millage. You guys are very well aware of the low-income senior housing difficulties that are facing Livingston County as well as other counties and states. Out of all of this money, is there any plans or any allocations that are going to help the low-income senior housing to get more? We've lost some of the low-income apartments that are no longer accepting HUD in Section 8, so that's kind of come off the board. So I guess I just kind of want to hear what your plans are for the future, because us seniors, we're a growing population and you gotta put us somewhere. And I don't think under the bridges and the cardboard box is gonna be really good, so.
Marty, I know that with the ARPA funds, that she's with us, or
No, that's okay. I wish I had a good answer for you, but it has always been an issue here in Livingston County. Where will the low-income housing be? And there are areas, mobile home parks, for instance, that do provide that level of housing, and but not for all. It'd be nice if we had an answer for everybody, but we have better answers for most people than you will find in surrounding communities, I can tell you.
Right.
And in addition to Livingston County being a very generous community, we're also very sensitive to those kinds of needs. And it's one of the important things in our program. And if you don't mind, I'll get back to you with something more specific if you leave me your information in a card or something like that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, I didn't expect you to have a great, perfect answer today, but.
Thank you for that.
I just, well, and it's something, that it's not just in Livingston County, it's all over, and as the senior population continues to grow, and, we are dealing with the silver tsunami and all of the fun little names that they call it, it's going to continue to be an issue, but I just didn't know if, in your financial budgets for the next few years, if
Right.
you are allocating anything to build
I think,
something.
yeah, I appreciate that, and I really appreciate you using the word silver, but.
Well, really.
Yeah. One thing we have not done a good job of is getting some information at the ground level. And I think there's a lot of things we can do as commissioners that turn out to be guesswork. We can come up with ideas, they might not be the best solution. So I think one of the things we can do as a commission is maybe form certain subcommittees. And you might know Jay Gross. Jay Gross has been a huge advocate for the seniors in this committee. And Jay's without power again today, so but he gets it, he really does. So, I could see an instance where Commissioner Doma says, well, let's study this a little bit, and maybe Jay and some others from the community get together, and it might take time, because this didn't happen overnight. It's been extremely exacerbated in the last 24 months with the skyrocketing material costs. Some of that is starting to level off. Yes, ma'am.
So to clarify, there are no current plans, and it's not even on an agenda at this point in time to do anything.
I can tell you it's on Commissioner Gross's agenda. It's a topic near and dear to his heart, and so it's not like it's not being thought of, but it's going to take time.
Would the plan be for the county to build it out? It doesn't seem like that's what the county would do, or to encourage the development of senior living.
Well, see, that's what I think we need to talk about, best use of resources and how the county can assist. We're not a public housing agency.
Right.
Let's be clear. But can the county assist in that, and how can it assist? I think that's where we need some more input.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Sherry Wine, Livingston County also. Just silly question, is someone taking notes to follow up on all this good stuff?
Yeah, I know, it looks like I'm texting, but I'm taking notes.
So you're the, not.
Well, for
I
us,
still write things
for
down.
us.
But I'm saying, nobody from the chamber, I mean, I'm writing
No.
stuff down.
It's-
No, we're recording it over there, sir.
So, but, okay, but does that later mean there'll be a publication of minutes and things? I understand the recording, that's a great thing, really great. Will then that be dissected with here's a follow-up from the meeting?
Well, Jerry, I'll take a stab at this. So, as the commissioners on this 9 group seem to work pretty well. Like I mentioned earlier, I try and get out and talk to the different departments and see how we can either stay out of their way or what we can do to help them. And I'll bring those notes back, and then I'll send them out to all the commissioners, say, hey, I had the luxury of visiting Let's. And Greg's doing a great job. Here are my notes.
What
At
about
least
the
it socializes
attendees?
it.
Will we see, can we see it?
Well, I typically don't send my notes out to the attendees, so I could probably send something over to Pam, and if she wants to socialize it to the group. Like I said, I'm your liaison, so I'm here to learn. This is my very first time at the Brighton Chambers, so if that's a need, I mean, I don't know if I can take notes every meeting, but, you know,
No,
for this
I think-
one, I wanna make sure if we're on the hook for answering a question, I'll make sure we
Right,
do it.
and we put out our publications weekly and monthly, through email. And I was thinking, now that we have a representative here, we can have like a segment in our e-newsletter with notes.
And we certainly appreciate them being here to
Yes.
hear from the chamber members, right? Because having the open, transparent dialogue is what we need to identify issues to work on together, and to help solve, right? And to have a voice from the business, community to the county commission is key to helping them really understand what the businesses are facing.
You know, and you're absolutely right. Our only opportunity in the past has been when you invited us to some function, and which included luncheon and all that sort of thing. So you got a big crowd, and but we weren't part of it. We were invited because we were elected officials. Now, I think what you're seeing here is that, you know, as liaisons, we want to be a part of the issue that you deal with. And you are good sounding boards for us, because if it weren't for the public, we wouldn't have jobs. And so our responsibility is to provide goods and services for the people that live in Livingston County. And, yes, sir.
So, you know, just listening, general topic at hand being with the seniors and so on and so forth, how do these problems get prioritized at your level? And then how does it roll out to the community?
That's a good question.
I'll take a quick stab at that.
Okay.
Just to kind of,
Sure.
we're very fortunate in Livingston County that all our agencies and our governmental departments have a tremendous working relationship. We are in many ways the envy of all the other counties, because they can't figure out how we get so much done.
Okay.
And how efficient we are,
Sure.
which for any government is,
It's money, money.
it's kind of unheard of, right? But it comes down to the heart of the people out here. We truly care. He mentions our exorbitant salaries. I think it comes down to about $1 an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's I don't think anyone's up here doing it for the fame and glory, but whether it's at the state level or at the county level, at the city level, the coordination is really quite good. So when we talk about things like the seniors, it's not just housing, it's
Right.
transportation. So how is
Food.
food, how does
Yeah.
Let's play a role? How does Catholic Charities play a role?
What
How
was your
does
first name again?
Mark.
Mark?
Yes.
I'll give you an example, and this is exactly how it works. So we have at our meetings, a gal comes all the time, her name's Randy, right?
Yeah.
And she's talking about busing for seniors, right? And so even before I was elected, I was going in and she'd come up and she'd do her 3 minutes and talk about, hey, I want to increase busing for seniors. So I get elected, right? And I go, well, how does our bus system work? I've never ridden it, I'm not gonna lie. So I went over and I talked with Greg Kellogg, how's our system work? He showed me how how the buses and all these different systems they have, where they go, we can go on, and it's kind of funny, they have an app, it's a, Let's Go app, and I said, well, let me try it, I wanna try and see how the system works. If our seniors need a bus, I wanna see how they can go about doing it. So I downloaded the app and through a QR code, and it didn't work.
Really?
So how long was that going on? Was anybody using it? Nobody complained, nobody said anything? So it was really quick. I got a hold of Adam, I go, Adam, I'm trying to, download, the app so I can take a bus ride. And he's like, well, do it. I go, well, it's not working. I go, I think it might be, I'm not the most tech savvy, but I might be operator error. So I drove back up to, the Let's and we discussed it, and he goes, yeah, there was an issue. I go, well, get hold of your developer and get this taken care of. He had it done like in an hour. So I'm taking a ride yet, but I'm going too soon. I wanna go from where I'm at on Lake Chemung down here to go do some shopping in Brighton, because I don't wanna go through the downtown with my car, because it's kinda hard to find parking for me sometimes. But that said though, I bring that information back to the board as we discuss, and I just say, hey guys, Ray's been coming in every meeting, she's talking about, wanting to increase bus services. I want to talk to Greg, what are we doing to increase our bus services? Well, Greg Kellogg is doing an awesome job. Basically, all our buses are funded by federal funding. You guys didn't have to do that. We take about $65,000, he takes that money back out and gets grants to pay for everybody. So think about it, this wonderful county we have, that bus service that we have is being, controlled by grant and funding money. So it's a pretty good deal. I always thought that, when I first got into this, and we're paying $1 million for buses or something. No, we're doing pretty good with new busing, a great staff. We can always use more, obviously, but that's where I'm at. So I've been in for about, a month and 3 weeks, and, trying to, find out what's going on. There's a person who came to our meeting, said, I think there's an issue, and so, commissioners, grab that, and they go and we check it out. And then I come back and I share all that information with the other 8 commissioners. So hope that answers your question, like when you say, how's something bubble up? So with me being here, and hopefully coming to all your meetings, as you bring up, Beth brings up other issues, I'm gonna go back to the commission and say, hey, what are we doing about, our 6 senior centers? And, hopefully Jay Gross is gonna start sharing some more information on that as well. So hopefully that helps everybody here, how we operate.
I really appreciate that. I mean, my general concern is listening to her questions.
Don't need to be slapped in the face, I'm just saying.
It's over there.
I was gonna say, I do elder abuse too, so we can talk.
I don't think that qualifies as elder.
No, you can't file a complaint. No.
But yeah, so to get back to the point of view, listening to her questions and then seeing how you're answering it, again, I'm learning on what I'm listening to. And I just wanted to address that to see how that kind of gets prioritized and then bring out to the general community. So
That's a great question. Remember, the county's big. There's a lot going on. There's there's state funding, federal funding. There's different, there's health and human services. There's animals. There's EMS. There's a sheriff, and there's only 9 of us. And so I think each one of us grabs 3 or 4 different topics and kind of become like the SMEs on it, the subject matter experts, and then we share that with the rest. That's kind of how it's been going. Marty very early reached out and says, hey, do you want to learn about ARPA? And in the summertime, I'm like, what the heck is ARPA? So he hit a couple sessions with the commissioners and brought everybody up to speed. Like, hey, this is where the decisions have been made, and where we're playing right now, where we're going. And I didn't understand at that time, like what needs to be appropriated and when it needs to be spent. There's a deadline on that stuff too. So he's been awesome in bringing a lot of the commissioners up to speed on that, and that's just for him being there. So hopefully it makes everybody feel good that all 9 of us are working together, and it's been a really great experience for me so far. So hopefully that helps you.
Well, thank you, sir.
Yes, Mark.
Yeah, if I could, not a question, but make a comment. It's been my experience that the county has had a lot of great department heads. Some elected, such as the sheriff, some appointed, such as at Public Health. But you mentioned Greg Kellogg. Let's works with us at Catholic Charities. They transport 1/3 to half of the people that come to our adult day program every day. They work with our special ministries program, helping disabled adults get to and from activities. It's Sheriff Murphy and about a dozen of his deputies involved in a charity basketball game on Saturday with our special ministries folks. Really involved people, invisible in the community. So I've been here, in my position 22 years. I've never had a complaint about the department heads in this county. I've enjoyed working with every one of them over the years. So I'm on behalf of my agency, and I think I speak for many of the other nonprofits. We're grateful to be able to work with those folks.
Appreciate that. That was one of my epiphanies as I joined the board a couple years ago. And did I call it doing the tour of the different departments like Roger's been through. is the leadership, the real leadership is at those department head levels, and they have, they're wonderful people with big hearts, with great ideas that are frugal. They're the ones that's why we have a budget surplus, is those department heads. They come to us with ideas to save money. We have a great county administrator that runs a great ship, so I agree, I think our department heads are fantastic. I'd hire any one of them at the bank tomorrow.
Eric Woody with Comcast, you mentioned your broadband allocation for the ARPA funds, and just wanted to talk a little bit more about that project and the goal for that and what the impact would be for the county.
I can start, and then if everyone wants to cut me off. So it's in 4 phases, right? The 12+ million that Commissioner Smith mentioned was approved and rolled out in December. And they're working phase 1 right now. Most of that's gonna be aerial. So it's gonna be, the big, I guess the takeaway from this is to build the infrastructure first. So it's, the priorities, when they came up with a plan about a year, it was 2021, I think it started, was to take care of municipalities, educational system, and the county buildings. So you get that trunk line kind of going to the center of the county. And then as a board and working with our IT department, it was very important that the county doesn't become a utility, that we didn't want to become managing a utility. So a lot of it's been working with public and private partnerships. I believe the RFPs have been completed as of yesterday, right?
I think they're all due back
okay.
yesterday.
And so, we'll get the results of that on who we'll be working with in the future. So, for a lot of folks, we're gonna be doing, the main trunk lines and then looking at, the middle miles, for language purposes. The county doesn't wanna get involved in going to, the last mile. That's where the service comes to our doorstep. And that's where, we're hopefully making the system where it's viable enough to get to those folks. That's kind of really high level. Does that help you at all, or?
Yep.
Okay. Please ask me more. I mean, there's a lot of detail in it, and we go ahead,
If I
sir.
can, just think of the county as a square, and we're trying to build a loop within the square for private industry to then come in and tap into that infrastructure grid. Then do the last mile to the residents.
Is there any concerns if the private industry doesn't end up leasing from the fiber lines, or?
Well, you go to hypotheticals for anything, but I think,
I guess-
from just the meetings that I've been in, Livingston County being, situated where we are, Detroit, Ann Arbor, Lansing, Flint, we're a hub, people wanna come through here. And, there's already been, discussions with companies that are interested in leasing lines. So when we do put it in underground, it's gonna have enough space, obviously, for us, but there's gonna be room there for others to rent that space. And so if you look at like a square, putting lines under the ground, and each fiber has like 288 lines in it. So there's a lot of space there for the future. So we're really thinking far in advance. So money is gonna be well spent, and we're also looking at ways. It's easy to get that ARPA money and build it, but how do we sustain it? So Director Toby's been doing a great job at looking at ways to sustain this so that the taxpayers aren't gonna have to pay for this down the road. And that's what a lot of people forget about. They build a building, but after 10 years, they're start worrying about the roof leaking, things. So we're looking into the future on this as well. So you're in good hands.
Roger really hit the head on the nail when he said we're looking long-term. So the ARPA money, we kind of, the prior board, we kind of informally agreed that, look, these need to be legacy projects that enhance the community, not today, but 20 years down the road. Because this is a one-shot in the arm, and we need to allocate it wisely for the future, not for us today, but for the next generation.
Hats off to the commissioners that came before us too, as you think about it, when that ARPA money came in, if we weren't already financially sound, we'd have to use that money for general fund, items and stuff. So we were already financially sound. That money came in, and it's given us an opportunity to look at the future and really make Livingston County, still continue to be one of the tops. So, and I think, Marcia, I think we talked a few times about, broadband is a big thing to bring businesses here. Livingston County is kind of like a bedroom type community. I mentioned all those cities. About 80% of the people that work here leave the county and work elsewhere. It's like, what do we want to do in the future? And that high-speed broadband internet is probably going to be a good thing as people work from home. maybe try and bring some high-tech businesses here, it'd be nice. I think I have a SEMCOG meeting this afternoon, and I'll get a better idea on that, and hopefully I can bring that information back to the, the Brighton Chambers with Southeast Michigan is looking at as well, so, that's, sir.
Yeah, I understood the ARPA funds for broadband was designed to focus on communities that have no or very poor service, as opposed to, I mean, you know, I don't need to go from 5 to 6G, right, when somebody in our community has virtually nothing or very little. So are we focusing on those communities with these funds, or?
Actually, the second phase, which is already approved and out for bid, is going down 36 into that Pinkney Gregory corridor, which is very poor service down there. And so we're hoping and then the rest of the loop comes out going all the way up to Cohocton, right?
Yeah, that's what I said.
And
Conway, Cohocton.
And so yeah, Conway, Cohocton, that's I think third or fourth phase, so yes. And remember this, he talked about the timing of the need. This is all allocations that have to be made by the end of I think mid next year, and the completion of the work has to be, the funds have to be exhausted by the end of 2026. So this is not something you have to wait 10 years for. This is pretty imminent. That's why we wanted to get that going quickly, because we need to line up the contractors for this. We think there's gonna be huge demand on contractors, and of course that just delays everything and increases costs. Yes, ma'am.
Sarah McGeorge, I'm with Catholic Charities, I'm the Director of Prevention. I also coordinate the Livingston County Community Alliance, which is a local coalition to reduce and prevent youth substance use. So with the opioid funds, I love that you guys created a separate fund to not mix with those dollars. Have you guys started the discussions of how those funds are being used, or at least meeting with people, because it's just something that we focus on, and I just wanna get your thoughts on that.
Not to my knowledge.
No,
Yeah,
okay.
outside of that, there is a guidance that we have to follow,
Right.
but we understand that, we're staying with that. We're probably gonna rely on Administrator Byrd to keep us between the navigational beacons, and there again, hearing from the groundswell, would be a good place for us to start. So, we can imagine what the need is, you guys know what the need is, so I think that'd be helpful. Yes, ma'am?
I'm curious, can you guys who work in that space shed a little light on what the impact of that has been here in the county? For those of us that don't know.
I couldn't hear you.
I'll try.
I was asking if they could shed a little light on the, how large the problem with opioids is here in the county, just for those who might not be in tune with it.
Again, I'll try. I'm Bill Hunter. I'm a director of the Livingston County Allen Club, which is located out on Old Whitmore Lake Road there by Grand River. We're one of many recovery resources available in the community that operate as nonprofit organizations. And we host, in our case, we host Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous and other recovery programs in our building. We just act as a rental facility, a banquet hall, if you will. And then these groups are all independently directed and managed. And we're just one of many that do that in the community. There's a number of other professional organizations, nonprofit organizations that have a variety of services. All of them know the statistics, and I can't give them to you off the top of my head, but Livingston County is, I think, around 4th or 5th in the state in terms of overdose rates and such. And again, I don't want to be quoted on that number because my memory is not as good as it used to be.
The ninth, we're the ninth.
Was you know
The
that?
ninth in the
Ninth,
state.
that was.
Out of 83 counties.
But all of us have a vested interest in continuing to have outreach into the various organizations like Department of Education to try to move some of the visibility down to the teenage level. Then you get into the actual downstream side of court systems and people that have been caught up in their addictions and are in trouble and need to get some outside support and counseling. So there's a whole group of that. And I was gonna mention this when I heard the senior comment about senior needs in the community as they're growing quickly. I've always believed that, you need to have that one person that you can point to and say, that's his problem to worry about. He's gonna do the collection of information, get the coalition together, set priorities. And I'd suggest that would probably be a good mechanism as well for seniors and for the recovery community, that the pharmacy money that's been made available.
And those coalitions actually do exist.
Okay.
So we do have a countywide coalition related to the prevention of
I'm familiar
drug
with that,
use.
yes.
And we do have a countywide coalition related to seniors. Jay Gross is a part of that.
Right.
So we do have a lot of those things in place and ready to be taken advantage of.
So having worked in the criminal justice policy space prior to where I am today, one thing that was always so interesting was how the government services rely on these folks a lot to get folks across the finish line. So they are by extension, right, providing the service that really helps get people healthy. So thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, and Bill, thanks for bringing that up too. So I don't know if everybody knows too, I keep a lot of the downloads. I mentor Veterans Court under Judge Murphy. So it's getting veterans off of drugs and alcohol and once they're incarcerated. So it's one thing I'm big on. And then the lucky thing about that is, on a tough situation, is I'm on the courts committee.
Oh.
So the chairman put me on that with some other wonderful boards. So I sat in a meeting. And again, we don't have all the answers, but some questions arise even from us. So I'm sitting on the committee, right, and I'm looking at we're getting these veterans. It's about an 18 to 24 month program to get them off drugs and alcohol. It's pretty extensive. It's amazing what these people go through. But when they get out, there's no aftercare. There's no adult mentor, and so I take it on myself, and I still do that. It is, we have breakfast on, how you doing, looking for a job, trying to do that, but there really is nothing structured. I'm not a psychologist. I'm just reaching out as just, I care, and so you got it through this 24 months. I can't have you slip back into the system, right?
Right.
And so I brought that up, and, Sheriff Murphy and a lot of the judges are in that, a lot of the court staff. I said, hey, everyone, I go, is there any, life coaches, or there's no funding for it? And so, bing, I'm a county commissioner, I'm watching our people going back into society here, and they still need, this help, and so, how do we do it? I don't know, I don't have an answer for it, but I think there's a lot of other things we could be looking at too, because, we get them into the program, they get out, and then, just miraculously never gonna deal with this ever again,
Yeah, well, long-term care is an important component to successful recovery, and that community needs to be turned to and helped.
I don't know where we're at on time, and I wanna go back a little bit. This has been socialized, and if anybody has come to any of the commissioner meetings, I know some of the early ones there were pretty tough to get through, but we're getting better at it. And then Director Toby's been doing a great job, and I'm trying to shrink this down a little bit, but I wanna make sure you see it. I'm colorblind, so I'm gonna do my best. Hence, that's why when I did in the Navy, I couldn't be a pilot. This tells you the different, it shows you kind of like the different phases. So you can see, phase one, it's a darker, probably purplish color I'm thinking, right?
Yep.
And it shows you the mileage underground, and I asked Director Toby to forward this to me last night, just in case somebody had asked a question, so you kind of see how the lines are working. And then you mentioned about some of the, our rural areas and how, like this is an area where SURF is already putting some work into it. But you can kind of see how we're trying to make it. They want to make it a redundant system, so whatever breaks, that we're not all without broadband. And so I think it's being money well spent. Can you all see that, by the way?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now the blue, it shows you, these are kind of what they show that are the underserved areas. So you can kind of see as we're putting lines in, how we're trying to be, I think it was supposed to be within 1 mile of a line, I think is what they were saying. We're trying to make it within 1 mile. Is it 1 mile? Where do you go?
I think it's 1 to 3.
1 to 3 miles, yeah. So you can see how it's been designed that we really take care of our citizens, how we're moving it in. This is out towards Fowlerville. And then I'll go back down and show you the different phases, what 1 and 2 are going on. It's a really good map. Everybody's quiet. Is there questions or?
I got a comment. I heard you talk about the last mile.
Yes.
And the fact that I have no choices in terms of where my internet comes from right now, despite the barrage of ads on television and everything else. You call them up, oh, sorry, we can't go there. There's an agreement with the township or somewhere, there's a franchise relationship there. And that last mile is an important mile in terms of my choices. The thing that I'm troubled by all of this is someone made a business decision not to put service into Cohocton, right? There was 2 people living there, and Comcast wasn't gonna spend $1 million to run a line down to town, right? So now you're gonna run that line down to town, that you're using this money, but there's still only 2 people down there. How are you gonna
Well, we're doing.
sustain that?
We're
I
doing the
mean,
middle mile. This is more of what we're doing as far as the middle mile. It's gonna be up to a private,
To a private interchange that'll ultimately get it to the resident.
Correct. And that private interchange obviously is gonna have a larger community to serve than
To
just
serve it.
Cohocton, for example. You know, because they're gonna need some mass, right, to make it worth their while, otherwise it'll be just crazy expensive for these people.
Sure.
So that's part of the equation as well.
Well, someone used the term utility. You don't wanna become a utility, right? And I certainly wouldn't wanna see you become a utility either.
Right.
Although it's no different than a drain commission, right? They're servicing a certain need in the community and something you gotta do
I think
it.
there's
Yeah,
some
you
things
have to
that are
understand that
statutory.
this is infrastructure.
It is,
It
right?
really is, and I gotta tell you, I'm probably one of the more conservative people in the county, so I thought this a luxury. And it took me 6 months to buy into the fact that it's not a luxury. This is infrastructure, and it's infrastructure as a commitment to our next generation, to economic development, and really to keep Livingston County relevant, to make people wanna live here.
Good point.
And we're way ahead of most counties. I mean, other people are just still trying to figure out how to pay for fire and
Right,
police services.
right.
And, you know, we're good to go. And so, you've got a really great commission, looking at the future. And then, again, our whole staff, all these directors are amazing. And a lot of this is gonna be done with, you think we just started with 12 man. We're looking at Robin grants. Those are due, I think in the middle of March. We're trying to do this with federal funding, so we're really reaching out. We're not gonna, there's no millages on this. We're working outside the box here to provide, services for the future with that seed money that came in from ARPA, so managing it well.
Good.
Just kind of help everybody kind of see where we're going, if you can read it. Again, I have trouble with the colors, but tells you the different phases. Probably phase 4 should probably be wrapped up around the end of 2026. That kind of gives you a timeline on what we want to do. So, any other questions? Sure.
I've just got a comment, cause funding for everything.
We didn't get your name and your
Don-
zip code and somebody else.
Don Pites, I worked for Export Corporation.
And a great citizen and patriot.
Yes, he is.
Thank you. I'll pay you later. Just some past experience, millages versus assessments. I just believe that more things should be an assessment to residences rather than millages. So let's take fire, for instance. There's townships in the county that don't have fire department, police department, and such. So where I happen to live, we contract with 3 different fire departments to provide service. It works out. They give us a number per run. But we had a problem years ago. Our budget was in rough shape because we owed a lot of money because of a sewer debt, because of a prior administrations felt that was a great thing to do. So we were underwater. So the fire departments were really concerned, because if we didn't fund that debt or pay it, the county could come in and take over our general budget because they're backing bonds. So what we did is great effort to inform all the residents, this is an issue. So the way it got funded to satisfy the 3 different departments that we're working with is we put an assessment. So each property is assessed, each residence, when there's commercial and otherwise, and vacant land. There's a lot of vacant land where we live that are owned by people, so if everybody needs to pay. I don't care if your house is worth $100,000 or if it's worth $2 million. Everybody needs the same fire service. It doesn't matter, whoever's house it is, why should it be based on millages? The thing about assessments is you have to go back to the population and re-up these assessments to continue the service. But what it did is it told those fire departments, which we use, we're good. This is a budget, it goes into that, that's all it is. So, I believe, one of the things government should look at is assessments rather than villages. Villages are hard to, get passed. But an assessment, you know exactly how much it costs for your fire service to have that ability to give service. So we talk about infrastructure. The utilities, years ago, you may know, they divested of all the transmission lines. That's a separate item on your bill. Look at it. You gotta pay for it. Well, that funds the infrastructure going forward. And then you can buy gas from consumers or some of these other people that push it through the system, right? Perhaps this should be one of those things, because you're gonna have to fix those lines. We are. How are you gonna do that? If you separate the delivery of this from whoever provides the service, and then it would be nice to get, oh, I wanna use Spectrum, or I wanna use Comcast. Well, we can't because we're locked in based on our township, right? Based on these local municipalities that get this money. And then they say, well, we get all these PEG funds and we can send that out to the schools. Well, that's a lot of boondoggle. But anyway, maybe separate to be able to pay for this going forward.
That's a really good point. I mean,
So
we
you guys
always
can
talk
look at
about
that.
Yeah.
It's just a suggestion.
Yeah,
So Don,
it's a great point, and I think, Director Toby has already brought that up as how to pay for what I'll call the depreciation. Right. Repair and maintenance, whatever you wanna call it, cause anything you build will deteriorate, no matter what it is or where you put it, above ground, underground. So, yeah, you're exactly right, and I think it's an excellent point.
And for other services, I have the experience with what we experience in our township. So we get a little extra police, which we pay the county for. And then we have a commitment from 3 different fire departments. It works because those fire trucks aren't on the road every day for these 3 different departments. So we're utilizing them and they utilize us, and they get extra money. So we should look at many different services, rather make an assessment rather than a millage.
Well, how many people, you know how 911 is funded? It's through a fee on your cell phones, right? So does everybody know how much they're paying? So, yeah, so you all approved $3, right? But your county is managing it with $1.85. So it just tells you how, deep, the commissioners, everybody looks at all these things. And then, near to me, as I'm a veteran, I look at veteran services a lot. And so everybody, thank you very much for approving, the millage for veteran services. The veteran services doesn't take all that money. So, they put a budget proposal towards us, and we look it over, and, so that money that you approve, not all of it's being used. So a lot of people don't hear that, and that's what's probably great about these meetings is, like, maybe I didn't vote for it, but, 80% did. At least you know that, if it was supposed to be $100, we're only using 45 of it, you know what I mean? So we're being very fiscally responsible, so it's just a couple
You're
of
only being
examples.
billed 45 of it.
Yeah, and we're not taking it and keeping it, we're just saying, hey, you approved it, but we're only gonna take, 45 out of 100, so, to fund the services that you already approved.
Where'd the
So-
other 65 go?
We don't pay it.
No, you don't pay it.
As
You-
residents, we don't pay it.
Yeah, as residents, you don't pay it. So on your phone bill, we don't collect that. On your taxes, we don't collect
it.
it.
Was a fixed amount.
No, we don't take it. So I think there's some really good news out there that, people don't hear. It's because
District.
it's deep, it's really gotta think about all this stuff, so, go ahead, sir.
Can I just clarify?
Yeah.
So the citizenry may approve a millage. Every year, as the county budget gets prepared, every department director has to come in and express their budget for the year, their budget wishes. Our leadership at the Veteran Services has come in and said, approved for a millage of X, but we only need Y. Here's what we're gonna operate on this year, and every year that comes back. Now, that may increase, we have the ability to go up to X, but so far, we've been able to stay at the Y level.
I guess.
Does that help?
Does, thank you.
I was getting the hook here from your, so.
What's for lunch today?
So and we're losing some of the audience, we don't want.
Yeah,
the rest of your day.
I think this was scheduled until 10,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
But, well, it was hard to stop them with all this good news, right?
Yeah, we would, and by the way, I wanna thank these two guys that taking time out of their day. Marty has got a full-time job at the bank, and, the bank is closed until he gets back there.
They need me like they need a hole in the head.
But these, we're always available. You can always call our office, and if we're not there, they can reach us for whatever reason. And, this is,
Does anybody want our email or cell phone, anything like that?
Thank you.
My email at the county,
Yes.
you wanna jot it down real quick?
Are these out on the website?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Give me a minute there.
M.A. Smith @livegov.com.
All complaints, and then all kudos come to.
Yeah, he gets all the praise. I ignore all the complaints. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.